So why are many students, some of them top of their class, not making it when it comes to university and finding good jobs? To speak to us about this, Moses Simelane, the Director for Inclusive Education at the Department of Basic Education, Wandile Wandika, Chair of the Gauteng Congress of South African Students, third-year student Mbali Magubani, also Joel Mamabolo from SASCO, and we have Ikamva Youth Nandi Ngubeni, who I left you out a little bit beforehand. Now, you're filling in the gaps, aren't you, for the students who are struggling?
Yes,
tell us about your role.
So I think the sentiments that have been shared here are the very reason why Ikamva Youth exists. And it's an organization by the youth, for the youth. So in essence, what we do is, and speaking to what she mentioned, was that, that transition from high school to university, how do you handle that? We provide mentorship, we provide support, we provide programs that help learners to be able to transition from high school to university. And even before that transitioning, we provide that support, which is tutoring, to be able to pass adequately, speaking to his point that he was saying that the quality of students. Are we producing the quality of students that are able to qualify into university, that are able to stay in university? And that is the very reason why Ikamva Youth exists and the support that we provide for the learners.
And tell me what it is that students need. Is it the psychological leap to prepare them to absorb? I mean, it's a completely different scene, isn't it?
It is, it is.
And a lot of students, possibly from rural areas as well, I mean, might be taken completely by surprise, feel out of their depth.
Yes. So we operate in disadvantaged communities, and with that comes psychosocial elements that are linked to how a student progresses. So we provide stuff like career guidance. We do referrals for them to organizations that are qualified to give them psychological help. We create that safe space for them to be able to come after school and have a space where they are safe, where they can get support, where they can get information. And I think the reason why students struggle a bit is because that lack of information. They don't have information. So as Ikamva Youth, we provide that hub where they're able to come to us for information, for support, for resources, and we're able to give them or equip them with the skills to be able to transition into university.
Okay, we've got a teacher and a lecturer on the line, Nandi Ngubeni. No, sorry, that's you. Yeah, who's on the line? We've got Son Wabo, a former high school teacher. He's calling from Port Elizabeth. Then we've got another caller, a lecturer, Fadiseni. He's calling from Joburg. Go ahead.
Good evening, Jane. Good evening, Jane.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
I do not think it's correct to put the blame of the ill-preparedness of learners squarely on the high school or basic education. Because my view is that the universities themselves seem to have an unrealistic expectation of what the learners are capable of. If the understanding is that the students at high school are at least taught to absorb and reproduce, why then do we expect miraculously them to be able to absorb adversity and be able to analyze critically when they have not been trained at that?
Okay.
So in my view, there's a disjuncture between what the basic education does and the expectation by the universities.
All right, thank you very much for that. Go ahead, next caller.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, what I have identified when I was working with the students, I realized that the students are not really well prepared for the university. They are not even motivated. You can ask a very simple question. They may know the answer. They don't have the motivation to can respond to what they've been asked. They don't.
Bad line there, but we got your gist there. So both of them saying that students really aren't prepared, and possibly also a point made that this starts at school.
Look, I think that, like I mentioned earlier on, I think there are many factors here. We cannot only single out, what the level of preparation that is offered at basic education. Yes,
okay, but there's clearly a problem, so something needs to be done. One of these elements needs to be tackled. What is
Definitely. It's important that we need to understand that we need to work as one education system, so that we don't look at education in the country as education in basic education, as education in higher education. We need to actually try to synergize all our efforts and make sure that, for instance, what we are doing going forward with our curriculum innovation and strengthening of our curriculum offerings, we are working with universities to design and to develop and to embed some of the skills that our students are going to need going forward.
What would you like to see happen?
Firstly, because I'm an education student and aspiring teacher, what I realized is that the problem is not just the quality of education that we get, but it's parents and learners not wanting to be honest with themselves. Because we have parents expecting us to be lawyers, doctors, engineers, when in essence, some of us just want to be artists, we want to travel the world and all those kind of things. So there was an instance where a parent didn't want to take their child to a technical school because the child was struggling to survive in a mainstream education school. So that is also where the problem is. We push children in a direction that they do not want to take. That's why we see the high suicide rate when they get to university, because they don't want to disappoint the parents. So what we need to do is to be honest with ourselves and our parents. Secondly, we need to analyze the epistemological access, because we do have formal access to education, but when we do get to schools, we are under-resourced, and our teachers don't know how to deal with that. A teacher in a class of 40 kids with different learning needs has to make sure that all the learning outcomes are achieved. So imagine if we look at it from a perspective of inclusive education. We have to address the visual learners, the audio learners, and all those kind of things in a period of 1 hour. So that places a burden on the teacher, who also has to focus on the grade 12s. You have to produce pass rate of 98%. So our education system is looking at the numbers instead of the quality of students that we are producing.
And do you think sometimes a bridging year is needed? Would that help?
Yes, of course. A bridging year to some of the students, it's assisting. Well, the Department of Education are supplying that, and also the NYDA is supporting the Second Chance program. I think it's assisting because it's not every learner who can cope within the 12 months in matric, and others we still have a challenge of those who have been condoned, like they've failed grade 11, they're just taken to the next grade because they've been repeating the phase for many times. Now those are some of the challenges that they face, and I think a Second Chance program, it's one of the program, and also the issue of modulation. I think it's also one of the good strategy to defeat dropouts, and as well we must check it because it's not every learner who gets a chance to modulate.
And we're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid, because we've run out of time. Thank you very much, all of you. Moses Wandile, Mbali, Nandi and Joel, thank you very much. That was great. That's our show tonight. News is next.